Okay, so taking the model that we worked on last week, um, I have the pliers. One side is grounded, which remember to right click and you can ground. It's currently ground. So if you click unground, that just locks one side to its coordinates at the moment. So now when I click and drag on the other side, it functions within the limits of the joints we placed on it. Neato. Now, last week I imported hardware, which was very much the wrong size. So I imported a new screw, and I also imported a accompanying nut from McMaster-Carr, which under the insert tab to McMaster-Carr opens the McMaster-Carr function, which is exactly like the website. Find the model you want and import it into the file you're working on. It creates them as two separate components, or rather individual components. And I just moved them around on the profile plane here. Just locked them in place temporarily, just so they're positioned. So what I want to do to position these, now I could select the component, press M for move, and drag this in position and try to get it to lock in place. But you can skip that step by using joint to actually locate an item that is going to be part of your moving element anyway. So we added the rotating joint for the pliers themselves. Oops. Last week. And what I want to do is I want to snap the bolt and nut in place appropriately and relative to where I want them to be. So if I look on just what will be the front here, I can see, all right, where it imported the nut and bolt here, it's smack in the middle of the pliers, but I want this nut to actually be, or I'm sorry, I want this bolt to actually be up on top where the shoulder of the nut actually sits on top of the pliers. And I want the same thing to happen for the bolt down here. Sorry, I had the terminology backwards. The screw is the bolt, the nut is the nut. Anyway, I want the nut to be placed underneath and located. So how to do that? When we put the joint on the pliers, the halves were already in the position they needed to be. To do this part, we're going to use the joint. So on a symbol, just click joint, or if you would like, use the expansion bar, select joint, press J, whichever one works for you. It's all the same tool. So remember, what you select first is what will move. What you select second is where it will move to. So right now, what I need to do is select my positions. And what I want is I want that bolt to snap to the center here. So I need to select the bolt first. But where I want it to select from is not on top of the thread or at the bottom or anything like that. I actually want it on the bottom of that little shoulder of the bolt, but I want it internal, as I want the inside of that. So if I try to select anything else, it's just going to keep trying to select the face, because Fusion functions on what is visible. That's what it's trying to select. So how do I get like inside of the bolt to select a spot internally? That we do it the same way that we selected the center of this hole here, just floating in the center there, only it's actually inside. So what I do is I move my cursor over the bottom of this bolt here. And you see my icon comes up, the little circle with the X, Y, and Z little reference axes, little red, blue, and green tabs. If I click and hold Control, it locks it to that plane, meaning it knows that I want some point on that plane. Now, as I zoom in, you can see a little crosshair right in the center. That's what I want. Select that. What did I do? Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I had accidentally somehow selected that nut. Cancel that and redo that. My mistake. All right. So selecting under here, click and hold Control. There we go. Now it's working right. So I've made my selection. The original object component ghosts out. Now I can go over and select the top of that cylinder. So the new selection tools allow you to automatically select in the center of a space. But if you do have trouble selecting that, mouse over the surface that you want to select from, press and hold Control, mouse over to that point. I select there. It automatically snaps that bolt right in place. Now, now if I go over on my toolbox and select motion, the default is rigid. That's fine. When you click animate, it does the little jiggly thingy. That's showing you that it now locks that that bolt to the top pair of pliers, or the top of the pair of pliers. Okay, please stop animating. You're going to give me a panic attack. All right. So I don't need that to rotate. I want that actually locked to that pair of pliers. Select OK, and we're done. Just resize. Now, when I click and drag the pair of pliers, you see that bolt goes with it. Okay, now I want to put the nut in place. Same thing, just from the underside. But to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and hide that bolt, because when I go to select in here, it's going to just cause problems. So joint selection, I mouse over the nut. It has difficulty selecting or not selecting those threads. So if I mouse over the face of the nut, click and hold Control, now it locks to that plane. It lets me select right in the center. There we are. Ghosts out. Tumbled my view underneath. Now the other side of the pliers, mouse over that plane, click and hold Control, select, boop, snaps that right over there. Cool. Motion, rigid joint, that is fine. It's selecting there, and okay. Now I'll unhide that nut, bolt. Sorry, I keep doing that tonight. So now the nut is locked to the red side. The bolt is locked to the orange side. And there we go. Now, is that a true representation? Yeah, not really. Realistically, first off, that bolt should be a little bit longer, and I should actually lock the joint to the bolt itself rather than the other half of the pair of pliers. But for what we're doing here, yeah, that's fine. If I go back into McMaster-Carr and select a longer bolt, I can get the appropriate size and actually lock it to there. But that is how you use the joint tool to snap your imported hardware in place. Pretty neat.